Good morning, friends. Welcome to the next edition of the VDMA CEO's Thought Leadership Series. And a pleasure for me today to welcome Mr. Karl-Alexander Seidel, head of Daimler Buses India. Hearty welcome to you, Mr. Seidel. Mr. Seidel is responsible for the development, production and sales of Bharat-Benz buses, Mercedes-Benz luxury coaches and bus chassis for India as well as for the exports. He's a graduate in electrical engineering and started his career at Daimler in 2001. So thank you, Mr. Seidel, for joining us today for this session. And we look forward to hearing your views, Mr. Seidel.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this invite and this opportunity. In fact, it's really a pleasure to be here and to share my thoughts also with the community. Let me just add some more points to what you have done for this beautiful introduction of myself. We have also another brand that we are promoting. This is Fuso, especially for exports.
Right.
So therefore, in it, what you mentioned, also Fuso is going to exports as chassis as well as fully built.
Right. Thank you for adding that, Mr. Seidel. Mr. Seidel, let's come to one hot topic of discussion. What we hear is the second wave of COVID, and the strong impact that the second wave had on lives of people, on employees. So what I wanted to start with, Mr. Seidel, is what was the impact of the second wave of COVID, especially on Daimler buses in India? And going ahead, how do you foresee the new normal? Do you see that, for example, work from home would be something that would be adopted at Daimler buses also?
Well, first of all, pandemic is really hitting the whole world hard. And if you see, there are several millions of that people all around the globe, and this is really not only a crisis, that is a catastrophe. And therefore, the second wave has not only hit India, not only hit Daimler, it hit the whole world very hard. And it was not foreseen that this is so tremendous. It was harder than even the first wave. So therefore, also we are impacted from that, of course. In fact, what hit us the most is the effect on the industry. Due to the complete pandemic, the bus transportation segment is completely down because nobody is using buses. Obviously, schools are closed. The companies work from home. Intercity travel in many countries were banned during the second phase because of lockdowns. So therefore, bus industry is completely down, and that this impacts of course also our business. How we reacting in the company is, on one hand, we look that we take care of our people. So we have immediately in the first wave, but also in the second wave, looked that we sent our white collars home. Working from home was then the topic of choice. In the production, we stopped the production for a couple of days, implemented the same measures that we had for the first wave in terms of social distancing, in terms of hygiene measures. Wearing mask was anyway obligatory. So that we could prevent also our blue collars in the production from getting infected. And we continued our crisis management that we have installed during the first wave, just to keep our people safe. That was our first principle that we said, highest principle is keep the people safe. But this was not only managing the crisis, we also faced, and this is what a lot of companies also are doing currently, what I see, we'll see the chances and opportunities in this crisis. See, in the past, nobody was thinking that an automotive manufacturer, which is a hands-on business, can go into a virtual world and run a business for more than 12 months on a digital world. And we did it, and we just continue that. And this is also, now referring to your second part, what will happen in future, the new normal. Well, what we recognized is that our people can accommodate to this new way of working, and in fact, some of them are really enjoying also having more flexibility. And therefore, we from Daimler, especially Daimler India, we enable now also this work from home for the people. So in certain areas, there are the demands of up to 20% of the white collars want to work from home in the department. And we look that we enable that so that this flexibility can be seen as an opportunity. On top of that, of course, we look for other opportunities where we can use the time in the crisis to upgrade our products, to look for new technologies, etc., that we can implement, be it in production, be it in the product. So maybe you have read our recent press release on the 𝐕𝐃𝐌𝐀 features in the buses, where we have introduced into our buses all the preventive measures in terms of hygiene, UV filters for the AC, sanitization, automated sensing on the doors, so that we really can provide the best products in order to prevent the spread of the virus. So these are only some of these opportunities that we have identified and where we are working on. One, on the people front, second, on the process front in the plant and in the products, and last, on the products for the customers.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Seidel. Mr. Seidel, also last year, in fact, after the shutdown, Daimler Bus had also launched the Bus Care program to support your customers. So what was the trigger for this program, and how did this program evolve, and what were the learnings out of this program, Mr. Seidel?
Well, thanks for mentioning that. In fact, the Bus Care program was born out of the need that we said, well, buses are standing now for several months, and nobody is taking really care of them. That was the assumption. And if a vehicle, especially a commercial vehicle, stands for several months, then you have to look what is ongoing with the battery, what is with the tires, if there are damages to the tires, to the battery, there are damages somewhere around the vehicle, and specifically for buses, if you look into the interior, was something happening to the interior, to the electronics, etc. So in order to support our customers to revamp their operations, we created this Bus Care program, where we said we make a check of your vehicle, complete service check, and then offer to repair whatever has to be repaired in order to bring your vehicle up to operations without any fail. Plus, we offer driver training, where we revamp what was trained before, how to drive our buses, plus how to deal with the hygiene measures and how to deal with the COVID situation. And we offered also some small items and tools that can be used, like sanitization pack, thermometers, etc. That was very, very successful 2020. We had more than 1,500 buses attacked for that. There was really a tremendous feedback, and therefore also in 2021, we are now launching the same program again, because also now the buses are standing. So really to ensure that whoever has a BharatBenz, that this is then up and running and not having a failure because of the standstill.
Right. And I'm sure the customers also would have welcomed this initiative from your side.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have also many customers whom we attended last year who are already asking, by when will you offer this for this year again? That was a very good initiative, and we know that we can rely on you, and therefore please come to us as soon as possible, so that if we are restarting, that then definitely we have your care program implemented.
Right. Right. Mr. Seidel, you already mentioned earlier the impact of the COVID on the bus industry, and 2020 we saw a contraction of the bus market in India. Now there was a strong rebound, and then the second wave came, which has again dampened the activity, especially in the automotive industry. So going ahead, how do you foresee 2021 and maybe the next couple of years for the bus industry, Mr. Seidel? And which segments, for example, I think when we look at the school bus segment, I think there certainly it must have really dropped in 2020. All schools were shut. 21 also, we are not sure when the schools will open. So which segments do you see would grow in the coming period, Mrs. Seidel?
Well, as I mentioned, the bus industry is hit very hard. And if you look globally, there in countries where the pandemic, the second wave, or in other countries, or even the third wave, was coming down, the city bus segment was coming up first, but the coach segment, the intercity and tourist segment is completely down even now. And the recovery is not seen very soon in other countries. If you look now here in India, also here we have seen after the first wave that the city transportation came up slowly, and the market was also recovering in the beginning of 2021, so in the last fiscal year of last year. And then the second wave came. A similar effect I expect after the second wave, which might be in July, August. However, we will have some influencing factors on the negative and the positive side. Let's start with 2021. Let's assume the second wave will come down now, and in July, August, we will slowly open up in all over the country. Then I would expect that also staff transportation and city operations will open up and will move on. Especially city buses, I think that will recover first, followed by the staff operations in the manufacturing units. In the IT companies, I predict that the work from home will continue even till 2022. Schools, we have to see. Now I start with the influencing factors. If we see the Delta Plus variant, which is now occurring, then there is a big threat that from July, August onwards, we will face an increase of infections again for a third wave for India. If this is recognized, and also fearing that the younger generation is more affected from these infections, I don't expect that the schools will open till end of the year. Some of them might open, maybe the 11th, 12th grade or the universities. But I don't think that the 1st to 7th, 8th grade will open up. So therefore, majority of school buses will not run, most probably in 2021, if this third wave is happening. Which means for this year, I don't see a market of bus which is much bigger than last year. Last year, we had a market of 13,000 vehicles above 8 ton. And a similar market between 10 and 12,000 I see for this year, because of this influence. Now let's move ahead and see in 2022. Assuming that the third wave hits us in the second half of this year, third quarter, then we might come out of this third wave in November, December, so we can start fresh in the calendar year 2022. And with that, I think that the recovery will start then really in this fourth quarter of 2021, first quarter 2022, and the bus industry will come back in 2022. Supported by also some initiatives from the government. You know about the scrappage policy, which banned vehicles older than 15 years. So that will boost the exchange of the vehicles. Plus, I assume that the learning of the COVID waves will be that on a continuous basis, we will factor distance norms in the buses so that we can protect the passengers better. So therefore, the demand of buses running will also be there. So therefore, I think there will be a bounce back in 2022. However, I'm not expecting that we come back to pre-COVID crisis, to pre-COVID times in 2022. Why? We have a large fleet that is existing, where buses are not used. And if these buses are still usable because they were standing still for a year, I assume that this will then damper the need that I mentioned before. And therefore, My prediction is that for next year we will see a growth, but this will be maybe half of the normal pre-COVID, and only 2023 I think we come really back to a normalcy. What is impacting this also negatively, we have seen in 2020 and also in 2021, a lot of operators struggling a lot with the financial crisis resulting of the pandemic. So I predict that we see a lot of companies, operators, not being able to revive and having the need to shut down. This also is then a threat of future demands. On the other hand, also an opportunity to consolidate the market a little bit. So therefore, there will be minus and plus influences, chances, and risks. But that is how I see it in a nutshell. For this year, only moderate recovery from the current situation. Overall, in the same level than last year from the total market. Only next year, then a bounce back. But only 2023 to come round about the pre-COVID level.
I think that's a very realistic forecast and prediction what you've made, Mr. Seidel, taking impacts positive as well as some of the negative impacts. I think that is really realistic. And Mr. Seidel, also due to COVID, we have seen supply chain disruptions. So, for example, now the automotive industry has been hit with lack of semiconductor electronic components. So, in fact, there was a study from McKinsey that said that such disruptions would occur every 3.7 years, I think they had mentioned. So, in your opinion, Mr. Seidel, how can the industry actually, or how can these disruptions be mitigated? How can the risk be mitigated? Is there any way out of these if these disruptions keep on occurring at such regular basis?
Well, in fact, I would rather say during Corona crisis to the COVID crisis, these 3.7 years were more or less 37 weeks that we saw a crisis. That was 2020. We had the start. Then it jumped from commodity to commodity. Now we have the chip crisis. I think yes, we are facing that regularly, and in the crisis, really focused on several commodities in short time. And what we from Daimler India took as a takeaway is what we do is we look for sources abroad as well as in India. So our key is really to have a high degree of localization and look that we bring in more of second sources to India. So this local for vocal, which is promoted in India, is really what we live. Just as a reaction to these disruptions, because if we have a disruption in one commodity, then we have at least a fallback. Either if the disruption is happening in India, then we have an international supplier, or vice versa. If the international is disrupting, then we can increase the local source. So that is definitely one of the strategies. The other is how we can predict these kind of disruptions earlier, and there the new technologies with digitization play a major role. What we do is we are working with our supplier base currently to implement tools which allows us to predict what will happen if some influences from outside comes, and what are the mitigation plans. We use then the new technologies like blockchain, Internet of Things, and big data analysis to look at the current situation and predict what could happen. And then in regular terms, we make workshops with the suppliers in order to mitigate these risks and to say what can be done. Stockpiling of raw material, looking for additional labor source in case if something happens, you name it. So these are the two influencing factors that we have initiated as learnings out of this disruption.
Right. If I'm allowed to probe a little deeper, Mr. Seidel, you spoke about localization, but since we are not talking about such high volumes, localization going ahead with a further range of localization, would that be economically viable also?
Well, you have to see, when I talk about localization in general, there we try to have two strategies. One is, as the bus manufacturer, we try in the chassis world to have as much as possible synergies with the truck world, so that within Daimler India, we have then the volume that is required for localization. On the body side, where the bus is unique, there are some commodities which we can share in terms of electronics, where we can then participate on the volume. On other parts, where then the low volume high independency by only procuring the raw material and have a high vertical integration in-house. So, for example, the complete paneling and body work for the structure is done with us in-house. So therefore, we are just procuring the raw material, which is then a high volume, and we do this then in-house. Right. So therefore, we try to mitigate on one hand to bundle with trucks the synergy effects, and on the other hand, insourcing wherever there is a risk and the cost is not affordable, then we insource. The third topic is that we encourage new startups to come up with ideas how we can do even small series with those suppliers. So we also encourage new supplier base to join our team.
Right, right. Thank you. Thank you for this clarification also, Mr. Seidel. Mr. Seidel, let's come a little bit to the e-mobility market in India and the role the buses can play there. So as per, there was a Interact analysis forecast. So they mentioned by 2025, India will account for more than 10% of the total annual demand for electric buses globally, which would be actually more than Europe and North America combined. Now, in your opinion, Mr. Seidel, how realistic is this forecast? And if we look at how would you evaluate the ecosystem for e-mobility in India, Mr. Seidel?
Well, in fact, what we have seen is the government has launched recently a big program to promote the e-mobility. This is the FAME2 right. program. And this frame program really promoted the production and sale of electric vehicles across all segments, be it two-wheeler, be it passenger car, be it also buses. And part of this program was a subsidy, especially in the bus segment for city buses of a high amount, which led to the launch of a lot of e-vehicles in the recent time. In the last 14 months, we have seen more than 20 launches from all competitors, also international players in electric vehicles, in buses. And we are running currently around about 2,000 electric buses on Indian roads from all OEMs. And within the frame program, there is announced roughly 5,500 vehicles to be supported till end of the year. So this is a big promotion from India's side. And what we have seen, this is also adopted and taken by the customers. The demands are coming. And if you refer that to the total industry volume, in fact, we have currently in India, not globally seen, only in India, we have currently a portion between 4 and 7% of the total industry volume per month is electric vehicles already. So therefore, if we anticipate that and assume that also the battery costs will come down so that the prices of the entire bus will be more affordable also for the private segment, then we will see in the Indian market in 2025 definitely a market share of 20 to 30% of electric vehicles in 2025. And if you now refer that, knowing that India is the second largest market for buses in the world, and in China, as a first one, has also a high demand of electric vehicles, then you come exactly to this 10%, which was predicted.
Okay.
So therefore, I see that really India is one of the front runners in that and faster developing than other countries at all. However, I think that we have here in India to work on aspects that you also mentioned, more in detail. And this is the infrastructure. This is how we give the overall service of an e-vehicle to the customer. And this is something where we are working currently on an offering, and we have created a project called Future Mobility, where we are working on all these aspects. What can be done in order to develop the cities or then operators with the respective infrastructure, with the depots, with the routes, in order to optimally utilize the electric vehicles in their premises. And I think that is the focus that we have to lay on. That's not only the product itself, it's also the service around.
Right, right. And as Daimler, you are upbeat also about the electric bus market and what your offerings in this field are going to be, Mr. Seidel?
Well, as all OEMs, also we look into that field and we see also the opportunity, of course. And as Daimler in total, you're aware, we were the first who launched a series bus in Europe in electric, the 𝐕𝐃𝐢𝐴. So also for India, we are working on a concept. However, I don't want to promise that we launch a vehicle in short time, because we follow the principle that we want to offer the best possible solution to our customers. And therefore, we are not just putting together some components and then say, okay, this is now a series vehicle, and the customer should explore and be the test bench for our vehicle. We want to ensure that our vehicle is really the best that we can offer. And therefore, we will finalize our testing efforts. We will optimize our vehicle in terms of reach, in terms of maintenance and safety. And only then we will launch the vehicle in the right segments.
Right, right. Mr. Seidel, coming to the last question for today. It's been a pleasure interacting with you, and we are running short of time. So, Mr. Seidel, the COVID has actually hit businesses, and it's been quite a challenge for the CEOs, for the business leaders, especially since it was unpredictable and there was no historical background where one could refer or historical experience to go back to. What we would like you to share with us, Mr. Seidel, is 3 tips on how leaders can, in this period of uncertainty, how can they navigate the company in the future also? Because I think this factor of unpredictability is going to be there for some years to come. And I'm sure these tips would be of immense value to our German CEOs and all our viewers also, Mr. Seidel.
Well, in fact, my advice is very simple. Face, act, overcome.
Okay.
So what does it mean? First of all, you have to face that you are in a crisis and have to look what is the extent of the crisis in your company. So that is what we have done. We have looked where are the threats, what can be done in order to identify the areas of threats. We have identified that the people should not come together. So we really looked into the analysis. What is the extent and what are the results, the potential results that could lead to us? And we made a scenario thinking in terms of what is really the options that can come and what are the influencing factors. Then we came into the acting mode and said, well, first of all, we have to protect our people in this crisis. So what can be done in order to protect them? Last year, this was working from home. This was social distancing, mask wearing as a mandatory thing, heavy sanitizing, installing also in the plant respective measures with fumigation, with sanitization stations, that we forced our workforce sitting in social distance, so that we left always one seat out in the office space. This year we launched now a vaccination center so that we promote the vaccination drive, because my strong belief is that vaccination will hinder the strong effects of COVID. What we have seen in the statistics, the Indian vaccines and all the vaccines are not preventing 100% for an infection. But what they are preventing from is the severe side effects or even death. And therefore, what we are doing is we are striving for 100% vaccination of our employees by end of this month. And we offer this also to our suppliers and dealers and all the people that are around our plant. So therefore, we will now start this vaccination, even spreading more. So that was acting in the sense of what can we do for the people, what can we do for the business. I mentioned the opportunities and other topics, as well as crisis management. So if you have not the revenues coming that were planned earlier, you have to look at where can you save cost, which means extreme look at what expenses are really necessary. So the quote, "Cash is king," was created last year and it's still valid. So that is the acting. And the third topic, you should not wait until the crisis is over and then think, okay, now how can we revive our business? You should start even in the crisis to say, we overcome now this and we plan already for the future. And this is what I mentioned before, taking the opportunities for future products, for looking for future technologies and in the future. Therefore, face, act, overcome.
Perfect, Mr. Seidel. I think that's a very good suggestion you've given. Face, act, overcome, and how companies can really look into this COVID crisis and try to find a solution out of it. Mr. Seidel, thank you so much for sparing your time and being with us on this show. And on behalf of the German Engineering Federation, VDMA, wishing you and your team all the very best for the year 2021, and hopefully the second half we can see let's hope that the business expands and the market again, we see a rebound of the market. So all the very best to you, Mr. Seidel, and thank you for joining us, Mr. Seidel.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and also all the best to all the participants and you. Stay safe, stay healthy, all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seidel. Goodbye.
Goodbye.